All right, hello everybody. So it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. We're gonna jump back into this. Hopefully, this will be the start of me actually posting videos again. You might notice if you're looking at this video and you've seen some of my past ones that maybe the overlay looks a little bit different. Some of the editing is a little cut back. That's one of the ways I'm going to try to get back into this. If I'm kind of being honest, as much as I've been wanting to do this lately, I just have not had the time. I think a lot of people that watch me probably don't know, but in addition to my regular job, I also do a lot as a Pokemon professor. So I work a lot of regional events and all that kind of stuff. In addition to running a couple local leagues, so I don't have a ton of time, honestly, to do this. And frankly, I'm not much of an editor, so the little bit of editing that I was doing before just kind of became a little bit too difficult for me to keep up with. So I'm going to try to get back into posting videos, but probably tone down the amount of like fancy editing that I was trying to do. That way it will allow me to just kind of get some videos out, get some content out for everybody. But ultimately, kind of want to try to give a shout out to the player that was playing one of the GLC events at NAAC that recognized me. I was one of the judges for one of the Sunday events, and yeah, you kind of helped give me the motivation to maybe go ahead and actually start doing this again. So another thing I'll go ahead and mention, this footage is a little bit older. You can see already there's a double colorless energy that our colorless player is using. This is from before those two energies, the twin energy and the double colorless energy, were banned. So I think this is probably about like April or late March or so is when this footage was originally from. But we're still going to kind of get into this game and see how it goes anyway. On top of that, I want to also mention that coming up at the end of this month, if you happen to be in the Atlanta area, I'm going to be putting on a big 1K tournament for our GLC players at the local league that I run. So, going to have a lot of cash prizes for people to participate in. I'm going to try to stream that as well if I can kind of figure that out. I've never tried to do anything like that before, so we'll see how well I can actually manage to put that together. But hopefully, something that we can look forward to as well in the next couple of weeks if you are watching this video not too long after it came out. But getting into looking at this actual game, so we've got our colorless player here on the bottom and then a metal player on top. Colorless has already taken their first turn, attached that double colorless energy, which, as I mentioned, is banned now, but this was before that ban happened. Also has their Bidoof down. On the other side, we do have our Beldum as well as that amazing rare Jirachi. Jirachi is a really good Pokemon to be able to get through your deck a little bit quicker. Lets you look at the top two cards when it's in the active spot, put one into your hand, put one back on top. It's basically similar to Recon Directive if you play Standard, and I've seen that Dracloak card. There's lots of different cards like that in GLC in general, but very nice card. Kind of a choice to be able to make in your metal deck. There is the other Jirachi whose ability I can't remember, but it lets you look at the top six, take a trainer from there, but it then puts that Jirachi to sleep. So it's kind of like what type of deck do you want to run and which decision you're going to make with that Jirachi. Right now, our metal player is choosing what Pokemon to grab from Level Ball, so going to find something that has 90 HP or less. I believe they could choose Matang potentially, but I doubt that's going to be the choice. Probably going to be another basic Pokemon, potentially something like the Bronzor. Looks like they're going to go ahead and use Guzma, so going to get that Jirachi into the active, as well as that Bidoof. This will slow down our colorless player and give them the option to look at a couple cards. Fortunately, we didn't get to see what was from that level ball because that was done off screen. Does grab a Suin Heavy Ball off of that Jirachi. So might be able to find one of their Pokemon from the prizes. They have done a deck search, so assuming they didn't just completely miss over one of their Pokemon, they almost certainly know there is a basic they want there. And does look like it's the Duraludon. I think I saw that Crebellion, or the future version of it. The oh gosh, Iron something. I don't remember what the name of that Pokemon is. Iron Crown, I believe, is what I saw in the prizes. It might have been the Crebellion. I'm not totally sure, but does grab the Duraludon, so the Hisuian Heavy Ball goes into the prizes and then passes it over. Top decks the Nest Ball, not a bad thing to see, especially early on in the game. Going to allow our player to probably find their Squovent. That Nest Bash ability is always very powerful, lets you reset that hand and then take full advantage of things like your Oranguru or your Bidoof. Depending on the hand size, they might also just go for the Oranguru as well. I believe I saw Guzma and Hala in their hand. So again, depending on what they're wanting to do this turn, they could use that to thin down their hand a little bit. then maybe have enough other cards they can play to use Orangaru's ability to see a couple other cards. But I do think Squovent is potentially the most likely choice to grab here. Does look like that is what our player decides to put down. So I'm going to shuffle up. Guzman Hollow wouldn't be a terrible choice here out of all the supporters that are in the hand. Seems like that probably makes the most sense. So discarding a fire energy, as well as maybe get away with getting rid of that Blissey. You don't need it just yet. You don't have the Chansey down. Not probably going to attack on this turn either. So again, don't need that. Plus you can grab your all-night party to wake yourself onto the next turn, assuming your opponent doesn't bounce it. For anybody that doesn't know, all-night party lets you once per turn wake up your active Pokemon as well as heal it by, I believe, 30. Also going to grab that capture energy. Probably going to be able to get another one of their Pokemon with that. Oh, air balloon. So here we go. I was wrong. I'm going to be able to get an attack off this turn with this Snorlax, attaching the air balloon to Bidoof. So going to be able to retreat, getting that capture energy, see what Pokemon they go into the deck to grab. Like I said, I think we will likely see the Oranguru come down. When they were going through the deck before, there weren't really any other options for the most part besides the Ditto. I think their Chansey is actually prized. Not sure if they're running the lucky bonus Chansey, which could give them the ability to potentially take an extra prize. It's always a fun interaction to see. That one lets you, basically when you take it before you put it into your hand from your prizes, if you've got an open bench spot, you can put it down, then you flip a coin. If you get heads, you take an extra prize. Kind of a fun little cheeky thing that can happen very occasionally. Here comes the retreat. Smartly not putting down the all-night party, not giving their opponent the opportunity to bounce that, does make them vulnerable to something like an Iono or other type of hand disruption, and does stay asleep as well. So Jirachi goes down. One prize taken already for our colorless player. Then up comes Beldum. Our player may be reconsidering here for a second. They're not sure what they want to go up with. With the way they're set up right now, the unfortunate reality, if that Snorlax wakes up, then they're probably just going to lose whatever they put down. So might be trying to determine which Pokemon they are more willing to sacrifice. If they don't have a way to disrupt the hand, they do know their opponent has that all-night party, so that Snorlax is guaranteed to wake up if that hand remains untouched. So here comes Duraludon, draw for turn, does get the Metang. So can start using that Metal Maker to start searching for energies. Also gets the Arc Duraludon, so any of their Pokemon that has, oh wow, and Professor's Research. It's going to see 7 brand new cards. But as I was saying, so any of their Pokemon with Metal Energy attached to it can now retreat using that Arc Duraludon's, I don't remember what that ability is called, but it allows you to retreat if you've got Metal Energy attached. 7 new cards. We'll see what our player finds. Does get the Buddy Buddy Poffin. So here comes the Varoom. Again, might see the Bronzor, assuming their build is running that, which there it is. Bronzong, there's kind of a couple different ones that are pretty good. Most people typically use the one that's got an ability that is basically just Dynamotor. So it lets them attach a basic Metal Energy from their discard pile to one of their Pokemon once per turn. Obviously very powerful, especially in Metal that does not have a lot of energy acceleration and usually requires a lot of energy to be able to attack. So our player does still need lots of energies before they have the possibility of being able to attack this turn. There is a chance with that Metal Maker that we could see an attack. I do think it's more likely that we likely will not. But that ability on the Arc Duraludon could give them a chance to at least get one energy attached, maybe retreat that into something like the Varoom or maybe the Bronzor, again, depending on what they might want to sacrifice. But they could get lucky here. Here's the Metal Maker. 1 Metal Energy, so going to be able to attach at least that. The rest gets shuffled, put on the bottom of the deck. Does go ahead and attach that to the Arc Duraludon. Still needs 2 energies before it can actually attack. So yes, here comes the retreat. Up comes the Varoom. And doesn't seem like we've got any hand disruption. So they are going to just attach another Metal Energy from hand. Again, we knew that the Professor's Research was played, so unless they ran something like Red Card, then that hand was staying intact. Passes it over. Snorlax going to be able to wake up this turn. I believe they just top decked Guzma as well, so can target down that Arcralladon. They did forget to go ahead and roll for waking up. Technically an incorrect play. That is something you are required to do, but it's not a huge deal here. They can go ahead and roll. It didn't really change any of the options that they had at that point. So Arnold Party wakes up that Snorlax. And since we do have Guzma in hand as well as Boss's orders, so I think we can take down this Arcralladon. I'm pretty sure it has 180 HP, which is perfectly in range for Thumping Snore to be able to take it out. Looks like our player is debating Cynthia and Caitlin instead, though. Will they discard a card, though, is the question. Does look like Mala and Lana is getting discarded. So grabbing back Guzma and Hala, and they're going to draw 3 cards. Not sure I totally agree with this play, unless I'm misremembering and Arcralladon doesn't or has more HP than 180. I believe it would be better to go ahead and target that down and try to go ahead and get the KO on the only threat that the metal player has on board. You've got multiple gusting options in hand. I'm not really sure why you wouldn't go for that play right now. Maybe the colorless player has something in mind that I'm not seeing, but to me that seems like the best way to go. Especially with no other energies in hand, they're not starting to power up any other attackers. We didn't see Kangaskhan or any other of the typical attackers you see. So I'm not sure what the play is here if their Snorlax just gets KO'd. I don't honestly 100% remember how much damage this Arcralladon's attack does. So maybe they're not threatened by it. Might not be enough for them to actually be able to KO that Pokemon. So did look it up just to double check, and yeah, Arcralladon will KO this Pokemon. So doesn't get any metal energy, unfortunately, so going to shuffle those and put them on the bottom. But if there's a metal energy in hand or another way to be able to attach, then this Snorlax goes down, and our colorless player doesn't have a lot of follow-up. They don't have the most powerful draw engine set up. They do have Squovent as well as the Rangaroo, but there's a lot of cards in hand. I'm really questioning that play. So Trainer Mail goes down, going to be able to grab 1 trainer card. Looks like debating on that adventure bag. Might use something to be able to boost the HP of this Arcralladon. Or potentially, if they run something like Counter Gain, could reduce the energy or cost requirement. But no, is going for that Luxurious Cape, it looks like. So that would put the Arcralladon out of range of the opponent's Snorlax. Though again, the Snorlax goes down this turn, so if they're able to get 1 more energy. But maybe they don't have it. Maybe they're just planning on boosting up with Luxurious Cape and then relying on their opponent not having Field Blower to get rid of it. Neither player is really setting up all that well, both in very vulnerable positions. Snorlax player does have their attacker that can keep hitting every single turn, but now that 1 more metal energy goes down, they won't have that for much longer. Arcralladon's attack does mean it can't attack next turn, so unless they are able to retreat and bring that back into the active, they won't have an attacker for next turn with what we're seeing on board. But, going slow in this situation where the Snorlax player doesn't have a lot of follow-up, it's not the worst. Obviously, it'd be able to be better to follow up with a consistent attack every single turn, but with the Metal Maker, as well as that Floatstone, there is always the potential to just be able to get what they need. Cypher Maniac going down. So this will allow our player to find 2 cards, put those on top, maybe help better set them up for a guaranteed attacker or follow-up for next turn. I think I just saw the Metagross, which I think it was the emergency entry one that allows you, if you draw it as the first card you get for turn, put it down on your bench, and then also draw 3 cards. So that would allow them to both maintain their Metang for the Metal Maker and start setting up an additional attacker and draw some extra cards. Didn't see what the other card was, so we'll see what they decide to, they ultimately decided to get with that. I think this is a smart play on the part of our metal player. Again, they're setting themselves up for the future turn. Even if our opponent uses something like the Iono, it's not the best situation. Obviously, you don't get the advantage of that emergency entry ability, but you do still get into your hand, can evolve your Metang, and start getting another attacker going. So KO, Snorlax goes down. Arcrowdon can't attack next turn. We are on 5 prizes for metal versus 4 for colorless. Revive does come out, so Snorlax is right back in play. Player did grab that Guzma and Hala before, so they can find maybe another one of their double energies. Could first shuffle the double energy back in with that special charge if they want to as well. I feel like colorless potentially showing here a little bit why double colorless energy as well as twin energy got banned from GLC. It's a little strong to be able to just recycle those multitude of double energy cards and keep powering up powerful attackers like Snorlax. I think especially with the release of things like the Cramorant that just came out, or Hops Cramorant as well as Hops Snorlax, which give you even more powerful attackers in colorless. Getting rid of some of the crazy energy cards you have, I think, is the right move. So Guzman Hala going down, discarding a couple of cards, and going to be able to grab another special energy, Stadium, as well as Tool card. Did see the double colorless energy in there, not the one that they want to grab, because they do need this Snorlax fully powered to be able to get a KO. So is going to grab Bravery Charm. Twin energy is also an option. Though debating that powerful energy. Powerful energy would let the player overcome the downside of a double colorless. But with the twin energy as an option, I don't know why you wouldn't just go ahead and grab one of those. That way, with the therapeutic energy that's already in colorless player's hand, they can just attach twin energy this turn, then attach therapeutic energy, and be ready for attacking on the previous or the next turn. So it does ultimately decide for that twin energy, it looks like. The only question now is, do they play any other stadiums that they might want to grab? Not seeing any as they're flipping through the deck. So no, it doesn't look like any other stadiums, but that's okay. Bravery Charm as well as Twin Energy are both very good options. The Bravery Charm will take Snorlax out of the range of a KO from our Growlithe, and Twin Energy will obviously start powering him up to get ready for more thumping Snore attacks. Since our Growlithe can't attack on this next turn, again, our Metal player is going to need a way to be able to go ahead and get that out of the active and then back in if they want to attack with that this turn. Otherwise, they're relying on that Metal Maker to potentially help power up a different attacker to be able to retreat with our Growlithe this turn and then attack with something else. Special charge going down, going to shuffle back in double colorless as well as capture energy. So again, more of those powerful double energies going back into the deck. This turn, since our colorless player doesn't have another attacker, it does look like they are going to end their turn without taking an attack. But again, not the end of the world since our Growlithe can't attack this next turn. So right now they're not the most threatened as they could be. Does put Squovent up, deciding that is the least important card. Unfortunately for them, again, if they get disrupted, they've got Floatstone in their hand. So if Squovent doesn't get KO'd, then they will have to waste their Floatstone or their attached return to get this Squovent out of the active. Oh, nice. Bronzong does go down, as well as that Metagross. That probably was the second card from the Metagross. So did get to draw some extra cards. Going to be able to attach energies now from the discard pile. Not 100% sure they actually have any energy in the discard pile, but we'll see if they actually do. Either way, it's still good setup. Did get to draw some extra cards as well. So versus Seeker going down. Will they grab the Cypher Maniacs again, it looks like? And debating if they're going to play it. Also debating on Guzma as well. Guzma would probably be the better option. That does allow you to get that Snorlax. Again, it's not a KO. Not unless they've got Field Blower. So looks like they're debating on retreating. They did attach the Floatstone. Up comes our Growlithe, it looks like. Did leave the frame for a second, but it's going to be right back. There he is. Oh, no, maybe deciding on something else. Player not 100% what decision they want to make here. I think they're probably worried about their Arc Rod going down this turn. They do know the colorless player almost certainly has another energy in hand. So it's more or less guaranteed that that Snorlax is going to get a KO next turn. There's, I think, 6 cards in hand for our colorless player. And it looks like 5. Still a good amount of cards. Colorless does run a lot. Does still have that Luxurious Cape from previous turn, so debating attaching that, which is going to protect it from a KO. And getting that Metal Maker. See if there's any energy. There is one. There's 2. There is the Metagross powered up. So we've got a second attacker that's going to be able to go. Does 100 damage with that Meteor Mash. And then on each subsequent turn that you use that attack, I believe it does 100 more. Does some good amount of damage. I'm almost positive it could be KOing the Snorlax if it was getting the second attack off. And the nice thing about that, as long as the Metagross doesn't leave the active, you continuously get that extra damage boost. It doesn't ever reset again until it leaves the active or doesn't use the attack on one of its turns. So therapeutic energy going down. Snorlax is going to be able to attack this turn. Player is debating on boss's orders. Maybe wants to take down something like that Metagross rather than this Arcralodon. Seems like they do want to take a KO this turn. Wants to get that prize. I'm not 100% sure that I agree with that. Maybe their thought is that later on they can deal with this Arcrowdon just by using Field Blower, whereas on this turn they can just get the Metagross. Definitely not the worst option they could take here. I can see the logic in taking that play. Player is just debating if there's anything else they want to do this turn. I'm not really sure there's anything in the discard for them to get with Night Stretcher. There's a Fire Energy, but it doesn't really make any sense to go ahead and waste that card right now. Switch card doesn't help you either since you're just going to go down next turn from their Growlithe. Can't play that Guzman. Floatstone, maybe put on a Rangaroo, but you just give your opponent even better targets with the with their Field Blower. So again, I don't think you do anything. Nest Dash is a good option here. Gonna be able to put these all on the bottom, draw 1 card. Ideally, we'll be able to play this card, but if not, oh wow, okay, there we go. So we got the Barrel. That was the ideal. Gonna draw 3 off a Rangaroo. Not the best cards to draw here because there's nothing to play, but you can go ahead and use the Barrel to draw 2 more. A couple more energy cards. So again, not the most helpful draws in this situation. Didn't give them anything else to do, but go ahead and take another KO. So down to 3 prizes remaining. Up comes that Bronzong. Okay, our player is going to draw for turn. Again, they can't take into KO on this Snorlax. Their opponent no longer has a way to easily get that Snorlax right back. Night Stretcher now went to the bottom of the hand. They don't have their rescue board in hand. Revive was already used. So if Snorlax goes down again, puts us right back in the same situation we were before. Where Snorlax needs a couple turns to either get back on the board and get powered up. Does have a Metal Energy to attach on that Metang. But like I was saying, it's a couple turns where that Snorlax will be down. Our Metal player does need an alternative attacker. Otherwise, they're just going to have to keep finding a way to retreat every single turn with this Arcralodon, which is not ideal. They are using their Super Rod, so probably going to put back in a couple Metal Energies as well as that Metagross. So is debating at least 1 Metal Energy as well as Metagross. Probably going to grab a second one, maybe Vivroom. Not sure how much energy recovery they run, so if they ever do get the Revavroom in play, I'm not sure how many cards is really going to help them draw. They do have Mountain Cornet, which gives them the ability to keep getting Metal Energies back from the discard to then use on the Revavroom. Does look like they ultimately decide on no Metal Energy. So Evo Incense evolving into Metagross. You don't get advantage of the ability there because it didn't come into play from drawing it off the top of your deck on this turn. Player is just reading that real quick to make sure they understand how that card works. It is still a very dangerous attacker. I think the ideal here is, I'm actually not 100% sure if they used Metal Maker or if they used the Metang or their attached return to get that energy. I guess we'll see pretty quickly from this Color's Tenacity, because this allows them to grab an energy card as well as a stadium, so they can balance this all-night party, and then potentially power up their Metagross, which, given the amount of HP left on this Snorlax, they'll be able to retreat into the Metagross, use that Meteor Mash. That kind of solves their need an extra attacker situation, because then Metagross can just keep slamming over and over again for big damage. Does grab at the stadium, whose name I don't remember, but allows you to take 30 less damage on your metal Pokemon. I believe that's also the metal energy that makes you take 10 less when it is equipped to your Pokemon. That would make this Metagross a very beefy Pokemon. It's got 170 HP already, so reducing the damage it's taking by 40 just makes it an absolute monster. So it does look like this is what our player is doing, going to retreat. Some reason our colorless player put their Snorlax to sleep. Maybe they're just preemptively kind of signaling that it's getting KO'd, but bouncing the all-night party doesn't make it go to sleep. Or maybe both players forgot there's therapeutic energy. Again, it doesn't ultimately matter since Snorlax getting KO'd. 4 prizes left for Metal and 3 left for colorless, but Metal looking in a much more dominant position. This hand is not all that strong. Could potentially use the Cypher Maniac to set up something for Trainer's Mail, but I don't know what item card you might want to grab this turn. Could have been something like your Night Stretcher to set your Snorlax back up, but maybe wanted to go for another card instead. I do see Teammates in there as well as Raihan. If we had the ability to get Snorlax back this turn, we actually have the cards in hand to get another attack off. The unfortunate reality, though, is, since it is that double energy and this Metagross just, is so much beefier, it still wouldn't be a KO. Metal's starting to look in a very commanding position against this colorless player, showing that even though colorless has a lot of powerful draw support Pokemon, as well as very powerful attackers, and at least previously access to some very strong energies, it definitely was never an unbeatable type to go against. Not saying that our metal player definitely has this in the bag, but at least in the moment, they are looking in a much more dominant position than our colorless player. And knowing what they have in hand, they don't have a lot of amazing options. Cypher Maniac, again, does have the possibility to set them up for a powerful play with Squovent as well as Bibarrel. So is going to grab Teammates. But the reality is, if you play Teammates, then, what are you going to grab with this? Night Stretcher might make the most sense. So again, you can get your Snorlax and put him back into play. Maybe you grab Luxurious Cape to help protect it in case your opponent has Boss, or another way to bring that Snorlax into the active. You definitely need to protect it from gusting this turn. If you don't, and you just put it back on the bench, all you're doing is asking your opponent to just bring that right into the active and take another KO. This Metagross is hitting, I believe, for 200. So it's going to be way more than something like a Bravery Charm or the Big Cape can protect you from. You would have to go with something like a Luxurious Cape. So the player is debating, maybe they want their other double colorless energy instead of something else. Does look like they put down the Night Stretcher, so almost certainly going to grab this Snorlax from the discard this turn. Like I said, though, they're risking Snorlax just getting KO'd. Their opponent has Versus Seeker to grab that Guzma back, or has their Boss's Order in their hand, then Snorlax will be able to go down. Maybe they're just banking on their opponent not having that. Can't see Metal's hand very well, so we don't know if they have a very small hand size. Double colorless is being attached to this Snorlax. Not much else that our player can do. Already played Supporter for turn, attaching energy, so probably, just using this Squovent. Gonna try to see more cards. I do think that there was, possibly a better play in using the Cypher Maniac rather than the teammates there. You had the ability to draw a lot of cards that would preserve your teammates for later on when maybe you weren't set up quite as well or needed to keep all those other cards in hand. But since you didn't have a great hand anyway, I think just putting those on the or Cypher Maniac and then putting the other ones on bottom and drawing 2 guaranteed could have been literally the exact same thing. So ultimately, treating didn't have any other cards to be able to play, putting Squovent back in a position to just get KO'd this turn. It is almost certain that our metal player is going to take a KO this turn. Doesn't have the Gush, so down goes Lusamine. Will allow our metal player to probably grab their Guzma, as well as one more supporter card, maybe that Cypher Maniac again. Doubt they want to play Professor's Research again at this point. Their deck is looking rather thin. They are debating on that Tate and Lysa. Colress Tenacity is another choice. They may or may not run any additional special energies. So it does look like they offer the Professor's Research. Maybe their deck is a little bit thicker than I thought, or maybe there's just a very specific card that they needed to dig for in an upcoming turn. But like I was saying, Metagross going to take a KO here. Going to take out Squovent. So our player won't have the ability to reset their hand anymore. Might have been better to just put up the Oranguru. I think the Squovent was probably a little bit more important than Oranguru at this point. Does go up with the Buy Barrel. They've got the balloon attached, so they're able to just retreat. Energy Lano. Going to try to find an energy off the top. 7 cards. They don't really need another energy. They do already have one in hand, but powerful energy could be a good find here. Counter energy, not all that helpful. They are likely going to start falling behind after this next turn, so could be a better option to go ahead and save that rather than attaching it this turn. Does provide 1 colorless energy still if you are tied or ahead on prizes, so it's not worthless. Looks like the player ultimately decides to fail that. They just want to keep that in the deck. Do wonder if they plan on potentially playing the Clara this turn to get Squovent back and keep resetting their hand. Not sure if they had a better supporter that they can be playing this turn. Seems like our colorless player is not really running any other attackers besides this Snorlax, so playing a very lean attacking line. It's kind of an interesting way to go with it. Does get capture energy, out comes Ditto. So this does have, I think it's called Sudden Transformation is the name of the ability. Basically lets you copy the attack of one of your basic Pokemon that's in your discard pile that doesn't have a rule box. Obviously the rule box portion is not really relevant for GLC, but still is part of the card. Basically it's an alternative Snorlax in this situation. So Snorlax goes down. If you're able to power up your Ditto, then you can use that Sudden Transformation ability to use that attack instead. You do need the energy attached, so it does need 3 energies on it. Ooh, is the player thinking about passing? And it's not... Okay, no, I guess Ultra Ball. Getting rid of the Arcan, as well as an Escape Rope. Player really not sure if this is what he wants to do. I don't think there's any Pokemon they really want to grab from the deck, so maybe just thinning down the hand before they use Clara. Yeah, no, I don't think there's literally any Pokemon left in the deck. Well, Archeops is in there, but probably a little too late for him to come into play. Haven't been able to find that unidentified fossil. It's one of the downsides of unidentified fossil, as well as the fossil Pokemon in general, is those cards don't count as Pokemon when they're in your deck. They're only Pokemon when they are in play, so you cannot Nest Ball for them, you can't use Quick Ball for them, nothing like Level Ball or anything else that you would normally use to search out your Pokemon. Can't do that with that card, so it makes it challenging a lot of times to be able to get it. You need something like an Arven that finds item cards if you want to be able to get into play. Ultimately doesn't opt for... Oh, I thought they passed. I guess not. So there goes Oranguru, going to get a couple more cards. Finds the one more Pokemon that's in their deck, but also gets Luxurious Cape, so now they are protected. Going to use that Bibarel for 3 more cards. this point, the resources count is running low, so more or less drew into a lot of the same cards they just shuffled back in. See if our player retreats this turn. There's an argument for just not attacking this turn. You do need 2 more turns to set up this Ditto. So if you go up with your Snorlax and get the attack, well, I guess that's actually in your advantage. So I forgot about the Luxurious Cape. So if you do go up with Snorlax and get the attack off this turn, while you're not taking the KO, you are still doing 160 after double colorless energy. Or sorry, is that? Oh, it is double colorless. It's not double turbo. So you're doing 180 minus, I believe, 40 from both the stadium as well as that energy card. So you're doing 140. 140 plus 140 is still KOing this Metagross. So 2 hits will take the KO. You are putting your Snorlax to sleep, though, with no guaranteed way to wake it up, which, again, it does not. So you're going to have to wake up next turn. Ooh, no, there's the Field Blower. So Snorlax going to go down again this turn with no follow-up attacker. Meadow coming back from their slow start and getting ready to take the lead. Bronzong getting a Metal Energy attached to it. There's the Muscle Band, I feel like, for adding insult to injury. It's not really necessary to take the KO, but our player goes ahead and does that. Snorlax goes down, I believe, for the 3rd time this game. Metal on 2 prizes versus 3 for colorless. Looks like our player thought about putting up Ditto, but decides to go into the Bibarel instead. Does find the Field Blower, though not the most helpful right now. Does have Clara, so going to be able to get Snorlax back from the discard once again. If the player did have Raihan in hand, they'd be able to power up the Snorlax again, but I'm not seeing that. Could dig for it with Squovent. What am I talking about? Literally just played Clara, so can't play another support on this turn. Sorry, colorless player. You're not allowed to cheat. It's unfortunate sometimes, but you could have always played that Rescue Stretcher instead and then maybe dug for it. That might have been the smarter play for our player. Ultimately, deciding to use that Nest Dash ability instead. Maybe that's what they were prioritizing. They wanted to go ahead and reset the hand. I guess with what they had in hand, they weren't going to be able to dig very well no matter what they did. Yeah, I think attaching the energy is correct here. Just draw 1 extra card. Could still burn the Evo Soda. There's nothing in your deck. Even though he does not running anything to evolve Squovent does have an evolution, and the game doesn't know whether you got a Greedent in your deck or not, so you can still play that. Would allow you to burn 1 more card before you use Bibarel. See if our player decides to do that before either retreating or passing. They should definitely retreat this turn, either sacrifice the Oranguru or the Squovent. Ultimately opts to just draw 2 more cards. There's the unidentified fossil, a little late. Fortunately, if our colorless player could have found that earlier on in the game, they might have been able to accelerate to the Snorlax a little bit more easily and continue to keep this battle going. But unfortunately, they're more or less out of options at this point. Besides retreating, there's not too many other plays they could make. So it does retreat, goes up into Ditto. Guzma going right back down. We did know that opponent had that in hand from earlier. They'd grabbed it off the Lucamine. So Snorlax going to go down once more. I believe that's the 4th time in this game. Or is it the 5th time? No, there's been a KO on something else. So I think this is the 4th time the Snorlax is going to go down this game. Putting another Metal Energy on that Bronzong. So 1 more KO with a Rock Groudon down to 1 prize. Looks like it's probably just about over for our colorless player. Their opponent just has too many attackers. They can easily just retreat next turn, go up with that Metagross. So there's Arvin, Bridget, as well as the Chansey in the prizes. Ultimately opting not to grab the Chansey and just going to shuffle up. I still think a play like using the Rescue Stretcher to get Snorlax back into play and then just digging hard for Raihan. Thinking about it, I'm not sure if there are any of their double energies are still in the deck. But if they did manage to find Raihan, they could attach energy from the discard, get the Twin energy if it's still in the deck, attach that as well, get another attack off. I don't think there's any way for them to not get KO'd this turn, unfortunately. So not the player, or not what our player is ultimately opting for. I think I forgot. I think they did put the Rescue Stretcher on the bottom of the deck with Nestash, so that wasn't even a play they could go for. There goes a Rangaroo to draw a couple more cards. There is Raihan, so has an attack this turn. Unfortunately, again, Ditto just gets KO'd next turn by Metagross. Unlike Snorlax, it's not quite strong enough to take the damage from just that base 100 damage from Meteor Mash. But like I said, I think it's just over at this point with our opponent having just one prize left. They've got the retreat on the Bronzong. There really isn't much that they can do at this point. Yeah, looking at the options, some of those supporters could be helpful, but they've already played supporter this turn. Did miss the card that our colorless player decided to grab, but I don't think they're going to get another turn. So unless it's something they're going to play this turn, it's probably not going to help them. So it does retreat, takes the KO. Or actually, they're not taking the KO. They've got double turbo energy. So 160, just retreat, Meteor Mash. There we go. There's the KO. Congratulations to our metal player. Was a well-fought game for colorless, but kind of an interesting build. And again, just focused on that Snorlax attacker. But congratulations to our player. Again, hopefully we'll see some more videos from me besides this one coming up soon. Hope you all enjoyed that one, and I'll see you next time.